Alright, so basically it's really late, and I've been really stressed at work lately, and it's just gotten me thinking about stuff, and I just kind of want to talk a little bit into the void, about how I feel about some things that have been said and implied, at Comic-Con and in interviews, when it comes to some specifics of Walter and Paige and any future potential relationship that might have. So it kind of bothers me, I just want to start out, when some of the actors or the writers kind of talk about, like, oh, they can't be in a relationship yet because Walter isn't ready, or Walter doesn't know really how to do this, or, he would make mistakes. Because while I don't deny that, like, okay, I don't think anybody would claim that Walter O'Brien would be, like, effortless, perfect boyfriend, no problems, never, everything's just sunshine and rainbows. First of all, when they're all like, oh, they're not going to be sunshine and rainbows, they're not going to be, like, in the meadow, like, what are they basing that off of? Like, what actual relationship, real or fictional, is just hanging out in the meadows, except for, like, a 10-minute segment of Attack of the Clones, which I don't particularly ship Anakin and Padme, so, that's not my standard. But, like, okay, so they're saying, like, okay, Walter would make mistakes. Okay, let's talk about that. One, yes, Walter would make mistakes. Anyone who's, actually taking the time to watch this is probably very aware of, oh, do you guys like Pillow Age? Anyone who's watching this is probably someone who follows me, or at least is very aware of how much I love Walter O'Brien and how much I relate to him, and how much I will defend him until, the cows come home. But, I'm realistic. Like, I get that he would probably fuck up, more than once, and he wouldn't understand a lot of things that Paige would want or need right away. And I totally know, like, that's a thing that would happen. But my problem with them constantly saying that they're keeping them apart because he's not, gonna be super good at it, I don't think they're giving him enough credit to start. Okay, he put so much effort out into, what he has with Paige right now. And there's the little things, like there's the cinnamon in the coffee. Watch Young Heart Sparkfire at the beginning. He takes a drink, he makes a face. He doesn't like it. He's actively just literally doing it because of her. Okay, and, else. Why is this frozen? Okay, it's not. Sorry, my computer's stupid. We know he talks to her more than anybody else. We know that he likes hanging out with her. We know that he does hang out with her and Ralph. Like, they have, socialization time with the two of them and with the three of them that is no problem. Like, when it's romantic, there isn't really that much different than what they're doing now when couples are hanging out. So, it's not like he would be tripping over making mistakes every, 10 seconds of their relationship. Like, yeah, he would, mess up at times. But I considered scripting this, but I don't have the patience for that, so if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. But, when he's messed up on things in the past, about things in general, friendships or work, Paige has explained to him what he did wrong, and he's worked on it. We've seen that. Like, we've all talked about his character growth over the past couple seasons, right? So the idea that he would just be perpetually fucking up, I don't think they're giving him enough credit. Okay, or they're gonna, like, try to back off on his character development so much that it's gonna feel like regression. And I'm kind of concerned about that because they keep emphasizing that they think he would mess up. Second of all, I don't like the idea that him messing up would be, like, this big deal breaker for them right away. Because what sort of relationship do people get into where both parties are completely 100% done with all of the character growth that they're going to do prior to getting into a relationship? Like, nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Like, I can tell you right now, okay, my parents met each other when they were 18 years old. Actually, neither of them had really been in a serious relationship before. My mom had had a boyfriend for a couple of months prior to, knowing my dad. My dad had never dated anyone, literally. So very obviously, she's from the city, he's from the country, they had differences. Their lifestyles were different. Their families were different. They obviously they have had fights. They've both worked on themselves. They've, and that's just one thing. My grandparents, they were each other's first real relationships too. And even people who have dated people before, no one's perfect when they get into a relationship. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone learns things about the other. And the idea that somehow they're acting like Walter has to be flawless before he can date Paige, if they're implying that Paige needs him to be absolutely perfect, when it's a lot of the differences that he has from normals that is kind of the reason that she's fallen for him, I don't think they're giving Paige enough credit either. And when it comes to, okay, let's talk about Paige too when it comes to this. Why is everyone working on the show seemingly operating under the assumption that Walter is going to be screwing up every 5 minutes and Paige is just going to be effortlessly, perfectly flawless, blah, blah, blah. First of all, that would perpetuate this standard that normal is the goal, that Walter's going to need to completely change to pretty much be a normal for her to date him, but of course she wouldn't change at all who she is to date him. I don't think that either of them naturally want to change the other. Walter is becoming more socialized, and that, I'm not saying he shouldn't have character growth, and I'm not saying that what he's been doing isn't character growth. I'm just saying that he's always going to be him, even if he's, who is this? Even if he's becoming, more sensitive to people's feelings, more aware of his own emotions. That's, he said in Forget-Me-Nots that Ralph kind of helped him become less me, but I think he was becoming more him, because Elias has always talked about how Walter has this huge capacity for emotion. He just doesn't understand how to access those tools. So I think that this character growth is really him becoming more him. It's not him changing, or not him turning into a different person. It's just, the idea that we always talk about mistakes being made in a future waige relationship as being Walter's mistakes. First of all, Paige is going to have to understand, which I think she does, and I hope the writers don't change her into someone that doesn't, because that's not her, that, he's always going to be, not like her. And when there's give and take, she has to do a little of the giving too. But also just the idea that Paige would never mess up in any relationship, even if she was dating a normal Tim or Linda or something like that. Just the idea that she would never make a mistake herself, which to me seems to be implying, what are you doing, Kitty? But it's okay, let's talk about it. Paige has not been in a serious relationship since Ralph was 2 years old. We know that by the time Ralph was 3, Drew was already gone, because that was when they got evicted. That's when she got the job at the diner. There was all of that. So by the time Ralph was 3, Drew was already gone. I don't think it's a very, far stretch to, think that she hasn't had a serious relationship since then, because she was working those jobs. Ralph was in and out of school. She was always with him because he wasn't connecting with anybody. He wasn't talking to anybody. Of course, she's going to be, not really having time for dating, not thinking about herself in that way. Maybe she had a date here or there. Maybe she had some one-night stands, you do, whatever. But I don't think she's been in a relationship since Drew. She's used to being on her own. She's used to it being her and Ralph in their home. She's not used to making decisions as a couple. She's kind of used to, look, if it's what I think is right, if it's what I want to do, it's what I'm going to do. And even someone who's really good at making those kind of decisions, having those kind of conversations at work, it doesn't necessarily translate to home. So, she's going to have to learn how to do that. She's also going to have to learn, just like her and Walter have a great existing relationship where they can hang out, they can do stuff together. Walter's going to have to adjust to the differences that'll come to that sort of thing when they're a couple. She's going to have to adjust to them too. She's going to have to adjust to him when they're in a couple, just like he has to adjust to her when they're in a couple. So she's going to have to do all of that too. It's going to be new to her because it's a new relationship. It's a type of relationship she hasn't had before. So, there's that to think about. Also, we have not had any Paige backstory that doesn't really involve Ralph. We had the, I was gonna sing. We had the, you know, I was in a sorority, passing mentions, but pretty much, you know, in terms of the backstory we know, she pretty much didn't exist before she got pregnant with Ralph. And you'd think for someone with all the EQ that she has, you'd think that for someone who always, you know, was doing the, oh, that's so sad, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, when it comes to, you know, tragic or upsetting backstories for the other characters, you'd think that she'd be saying, oh, well, why don't we do this because this is what my parents did, or, you know, my mom would do this, my dad would do this. We haven't gotten any of that, and so I can't help but thinking, and if you go to my blog and go to the search bar and type in the Deneen question, you'll get this really long thing that I posted like 6 months ago, and I've reblogged it a couple of times, where I kind of talk directly about all the different potential scenarios with Paige and her parents and all of that. But I really feel like there's some sort of tragedy there. There's gotta be, like, when she got evicted, why didn't she go to her parents for help? Why didn't she live at least in the same town as them so they could babysit? I think her parents are either dead, they're out of her life somehow, like they left when she was younger, or they, you know, had a problem with her getting pregnant or something like that, or, you know, one's dead and the other one's gone. Like, you know, we don't know that, but, you know, with that, like, okay, think about it. Say her parents are dead, okay? Her parents left her. Drew abandoned her. You know, we're talking about, you know, Happy said to Walter in Chernobyl Intentions, he's afraid of committing to her because he gets close to Megan, she dies. He tries to connect with his parents, he can't. It's the same thing with Paige. We know that Drew abandoned her. Her parents either passed away, like Megan, are we seeing the parallels here, or she doesn't have a relationship with them other than that. So why is nobody talking about how maybe getting into a serious relationship again might scare her too? Like, why is no one talking about this? And I know, like, Tumblr has brought it up, and fanfiction has, like, Silent Partners. I have talked about that fanfic so much, but, like, there's an entire thing in there where they talk about, like, where a original character that's created for that story kind of tells Paige, you have abandonment issues. I think Paige does have abandonment issues. It's why, and the fanfic talks about this too, you know, it's why whenever, you know, when Walter is short with Ralph, it's, you do that again, I'm leaving. Or, you know, Ralph went in danger, I'm leaving. She wants to leave before someone else can leave her again. And I feel like, you know, her and Walter both have a death in the past. Her and Walter, you know, potentially if her parents are dead. Or if her parents, you know, kind of disowned her. Or if her parents left when she was, you know, something like that. Like, you know, she has that same kind of potential fear of repetitive outcomes that Walter has. But we're always focusing on it from Walter's perspective. And I think we should. You know, it's harder for him to deal with that sort of thing because he's not as good at adjusting to things. He's not as good with emotions. But that doesn't mean that it's not a potential thing for Paige too. And I just really feel like if it turns out Paige had a sunshine and rainbows childhood, I'm going to be very surprised. I think she's not talking about it because she tries to bring the best on everything, and maybe it's too painful to talk about, or maybe, you know, she doesn't want to think about it for another reason. But, like, there's got to be tragedy in her past at some point. I mean, I think it's safe to say she doesn't have a relationship with her parents, even if they are still alive, because, you know, in season 1, it was, oh, Ralph's with the sitter, or Ralph's with his dad. In season 2, it's Ralph's with the sitter, or Ralph's with the character who's not, you know, on the screen right now. It's never Ralph's with his grandparents. It's never Ralph, you know, we're going to go see his grandparents. You know, Ralph's had 2 birthdays since the show happened. Why are we not hearing about his grandparents? You know, something's gone on with her parents, and I feel like that's going to give her a fear of loss, a fear of being left, you know, as much as Walter is afraid of failing to connect with people and it ending badly like it has with everyone in the past. So, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm not saying Paige would be a terrible girlfriend any more than I'm saying Walter would be a terrible boyfriend. I'm not even saying that, you know, Paige would be worse at it than Walter. Like, I know that he has more to work on than her in that respect, but it feels like the show, at least right now, maybe just what they want us to know, I don't know, is kind of, you know, leaving that out, or kind of just assuming that Paige would be flawless and Walter would be the only one that would cause any tension in their relationship. And again, I don't doubt that Walter will mess up. Like, I'm not stupid, okay? But you know, I don't know. It's really late, and I don't even know if I made sense. I don't even know if I hit all of the things that I tried to hit in terms of topics here, but I just kind of wanted to get this out, and I didn't want to type it. So, I don't know. So yeah, to wrap up, okay. Give Walter enough credit, please. Let's not say that everyone has to be flawless and completely incapable of making mistakes before getting into a relationship, because people do work on themselves. People can work on relationships while they're in their relationship. Okay, I mean, look at Monica and Chandler. I'm just going to go with a very popular, you know, healthy long-term couple that everyone knows. Like, they both worked on so many things while they were together. Okay, neither of them were perfect when they were together. Neither of them were perfect by the end of the series, but you know what? It worked because they were good people, they had good intentions, they were compatible, and they fought for it. And, you know, that's how both the Scorpion couples are, and Melvester too. But that's not just what I'm talking about here, but I could go on and on about, you know, how Quintus and Melvester had those same attributes. But that was the second thing. And third thing, you know, let's not assume that Paige is going to be perfect. Let's not put all of the blame on Walter for mistakes in a relationship that doesn't even exist yet, romantically. So, yeah, that's all I had to say. If anyone actually listened to all of this, thank you, I guess, for tolerating my late night rambles while I look like a mess and probably sound worse because I'm still kind of getting over being sick. And also, the camera is in the center of the screen, but where I can see myself is on this side of the screen. So if when you're watching this, it looks like I'm kind of staring off to the side, I'm trying to make sure I'm still in the camera and my head's not cut off, so I am kind of looking off to the side. Anyway, that's not important. I probably should put that at the beginning. But anyway, thanks for listening if you did. I apologize if I phrased things weirdly or repeated myself or didn't complete a thought, because again, I didn't script this. I just kind of turned on my microphone and my video and started talking. So, yeah, have a good night, good morning. Thanks for listening to this. If you want to drop an ask or a chat and kind of give me your thoughts, if you have anything to add on, agreement, disagreement, whatever, that'd be cool. I like talking to people, and I'm off tomorrow. So, hopefully I'll get something written or something. But, yeah, so, I don't really know how to end this, so I'm just going to say peace out, okay? Love each other.